Have you ever stopped to think about what the true measure of a person really is? I mean, is it about the power they can wield over others, or is it more about the mercy they choose to show when they have that power? So today, we're going to dive into a classic story that puts that very question to the test, following a man named Gulliver on a journey to two worlds that couldn't be more different, and that hold up a mirror to our own. And yeah, this is the question at the very heart of Gulliver's journey. It's something he's forced to grapple with when his entire reality gets turned upside down, not just once, but twice. And honestly, it's a question that challenges us to think about how we judge others, and maybe more importantly, how we judge ourselves. All right, so our story kicks off with Gulliver shipwrecked in Lilliput. This is a land where the people are, well, tiny, no taller than his hand. So as you can imagine, his immense size immediately makes him a figure of both awe and, frankly, a little bit of terror. He's not just a visitor here. To the rulers of this tiny nation, he's a potential game changer. You see, for the Emperor of Lilliput, Gulliver isn't a person. He's the ultimate military asset. He sees a living, breathing weapon of conquest and immediately starts plotting to use Gulliver's size to finally crush his rivals, the neighboring island of Blefuscu, once and for all. And this is where things get complicated. The Emperor demands the total annihilation of his enemy, but Gulliver, he draws a firm moral line in the sand. He swore an oath to protect Lilliput, right? But he refuses to become a tool for enslaving an entire nation. It's that classic clash between the temptation of absolute power and the strength of personal principle. So what does Gulliver do? He comes up with this absolutely brilliant plan. Instead of using his massive strength to just sink all the enemy ships, he wades into the channel between the islands, uses some hooks and cables to gather their entire fleet, and simply pulls it away. He achieves a total victory, completely disarming the enemy without causing a single casualty. I mean, that's just an act of strategic genius.
You'd think that would make him a hero for life, right? Well, not so fast. In the treacherous world of court politics, an act of mercy can actually be a pretty dangerous thing. And ironically, Gulliver's brilliant and compassionate victory becomes the very reason for his downfall.
I mean, at first, everything seems great. His incredible feat is celebrated. The wiser voices in the court, like this advisor Reldresal, are just in awe of his restraint. They see that Gulliver has shown them a whole new kind of strength, one that's tempered with compassion. But you know how it is. The narrative starts to shift, and with alarming speed. Jealous nobles who feel like their own power is shrinking because of Gulliver's presence, they start whispering in the Emperor's ear. They skillfully twist his act of mercy into a sign of weakness. Then it becomes disobedience. And finally, they call it treason, for not completely destroying the enemy like he was commanded. And I mean, his fall from grace is just breathtakingly fast. Think about this. In less than 2 weeks, he goes from being the nation's savior to a convicted traitor, secretly sentenced to be blinded. It's a stunning, almost absurd example of how easily public opinion can be manipulated by those who trade in fear. So, with the secret help of that same advisor, Reldresal, Gulliver is forced to flee the very nation he just saved. And the really crucial point here is the painful irony of it all. His promise to himself, his commitment to act with mercy, was a chain far stronger than any the Lilliputians could put on him, and in the end, it cost him everything. But just when you think it's all over for Gulliver, his journey is really just getting started. After escaping and setting sail once more, another storm throws him onto an unknown shore, and this time, the tables are about to be dramatically and terrifyingly turned. Just take a second to remember. In Lilliput, he was a giant among men. The entire world was at his feet. His power seemed limitless. He could shift the balance of power between nations with a single action. He was, for all intents and purposes, a force of nature. He wakes up in a place called Brobdingnag, a land of giants. And suddenly, he's the tiny one. The power dynamic hasn't just shifted, it has been completely and terrifyingly inverted. And from his new perspective, the world becomes this landscape of immense danger. A simple blade of grass is a towering spear. A house cat? It's a monstrous predator with eyes like green fire. All his previous experience as a giant means absolutely nothing here. He is now utterly vulnerable, basically an insect in a world that wasn't built for him. What's crazy is he's not captured by an army this time. He's found by a farmer who just gently picks him up between his thumb and forefinger like some strange little doll. He's taken in not as a threat or a tool, but as a fascinating curiosity, a plaything for the farmer's young daughter Glumdalclitch. And it's right here, in this state of just total helplessness, that Gulliver is forced to learn his most profound lesson yet. He's about to discover what truly defines a person when all that physical power is completely stripped away.
And wow, what a difference, right? Unlike the scheming Lilliputian court that saw him as a weapon to be used, his new keeper, this giant girl Glumdalclitch, treats him with simple, protective kindness. She builds him a tiny little house, sews him clothes, and defends him from harm. She sees a life to be nurtured, not a tool to be exploited.
This contrast gets even sharper when he meets the king of Brobdingnag. The Lilliputian emperor only cared about Gulliver's physical size and what it could do for him. The giant king, on the other hand, is fascinated by Gulliver's mind, his stories about another world, his society, his capacity for reason. He looks past the size to see the person.
And that line from the king, that's a huge turning point. For the first time on his travels, Gulliver is being judged not by his physical stature, but by the substance of his character. His worth is finally found not in his might, but in his mind.
And this is it. This is Gulliver's big epiphany, the lesson he had to live from both sides to finally understand. Having been both an all-powerful giant and a helpless spectacle, he finally sees the truth. The real measure of any person, or any society for that matter, isn't found in muscle or might, but in mercy and compassion. So, what's the takeaway from all this? Well, for one, that our perspective is totally relative, right? And that power doesn't make a person good or bad, it just reveals who they already are. And maybe most importantly, that it's in our moments of vulnerability that we truly learn humility and discover that mercy is always a greater measure of strength than force. In the end, Gulliver's reflection becomes our own. His journey shows him two very different faces of humanity, one that's petty and cruel, the other wise and kind. And it leaves us with a question to ponder for ourselves. When we look in the mirror, which version do we see? And more importantly, which one do we choose to be?